I don't know what we're going to call the series. I'm likely going to opt for something bland and boring like non-toxic stone lithography research. Maybe we'll say making old school prints radder. Maybe it's making contemporary printmaking methods. I'm not really sure. I think all of the titles are kind of boring. So what can we say? This is
What are the secrets of studio practice? I wanna know all your good and bad habits. How do you make art like a pro? There's so many ways to do so. Stick around, cause you'll find out on Artist Confessionals.
Artist Confessionals.
Artist Confessionals with Sparkbox Studio.
Welcome to Artist Confessional. My name is Kyle, and I'm so excited that you are here with me in this void, and we're going to be doing something really cool. In this video and the next couple videos to follow, we are going to be following me along in this journey through an Ontario Arts Council Emerging Artist Grant as I explore non-toxic stone lithography. We are going to get into making some prints off of stone. That doesn't sound crazy impressive to you. I don't know what does, because making a multiple off of a rock sounds awesome. I'm very excited. I haven't made a stone lithograph since I was in university, which is like 10 years ago, but
It's more than that.
almost 15 years ago. God, has it been that long? I guess it has been, because time does not lie. Anyways, in today's video, I'm excited to show you the whole planning and prep and material gathering of this process. We are going to be talking about my application, talking about how I wrote about that, how I achieved a successful grant through the OAC, and we're going to be talking about what those first stages are after getting that grant. And we're going to talk about some of the research that went into it, what books I'm referencing, and what weird nerdy printmaking language I'm excited about. And then we are going to be opening a wonderful cardboard box full of goodies coming up from the States, and it's so exciting because it has all of the chemistry that I need to make non-toxic stone lithographs. In this project, I'm going to be exploring non-toxic printmaking methods in specific regards to stone lithography. I'm trying to move away from nitric acid and from lithotine and from asphaltum and all kind of these just hazardous chemicals that have like a weird steeped history, and they are like so ingrained in lithography, it's very hard to remove the two of them. The grant we're working with is the OAC's Emerging Artist Grant. I've received one of these before, and my application, which was successful, was about non-toxic etching research. So I thought that maybe exploring a non-toxic stone lithography might be a really good, it's a great use of a grant. It's for research, it doesn't have a saleable end, and so this grant is allowing me some time, some space, some materials to work through those processes. I really wanted to have an opportunity to work through some of these ideas that I've been toying with, that I've been reading about, and the OAC Emerging Arts Grant actually just gives me time to do so, and I can't thank them enough for this project. We'd received a bunch of donations over the years, and I really wanted to try to make use of it, so we wrote this proposal, which if you want to actually look at the proposal, you can go to our video from the Art Discourse series, linked here, or in the show notes below. I get to explore and do some cool things, like we're going to make some prints off of stones. I can't wait. And we're going to do it without nitric acid, and I'm so excited for that because that's been a major hurdle in our shop, and having this opportunity means I can make some stone lithographs, which I haven't done in over a decade. The book I'm going to be following along with is called Printmaking Revolution. It's by Dwight Pogue. I really highly recommend it. It is a great book. My major criticism would be I really wish that there had been a materials list in the book that was just like, buy all these items. We'll get to that video later. The book I read cover to cover, and I read it 3 times. To try to absorb the information that he was talking about and trying to synthesize that into some sort of visualization in my own head. How am I going to do what he's describing in my studio? What is that going to look like? And I started to go through the whole thing to understand and kind of really get a sense of, I guess I was rehearsing how to do a stone lithograph in my head, in my own studio, while reading his book on the 3rd time. It was about taking that information and breaking it down into like a really organized step-by-step instruction sheet for myself. I really need to have like a step 1, step 1A, step 1B, 2. And so I took down all of his information, all the steps in like a very linear fashion. I read through, I wrote it down, breaking it down from like a paragraph down to a couple of words, like this is what you have to do, here are the things that you look out for. This is what you do next, this is the next thing. And I assembled that on one half of my document, and then on the other half of the document, I assembled all the materials. So every time that he would mention something, I wrote it down, and I would kind of keep a tally of how often those things are mentioned and try to suss out what exactly I needed to actually have in my studio to do what he is doing. So that was kind of the next step, was make like a very Kyle approach to how to do a print, which is steps. If there was a grid involved, I'm sure I used a grid. I guess process map maybe is the best way to describe it. Something that looked a little bit more visually pleasing than just like a run-on list. So I believe in Google Sheets, I sat down and I started like listing them out. And then I started kind of mapping out the different processes I wanted to do. So like there's a couple of different things that he does in the book that I'm kind of curious about. One is like traditionally etching a stone, where you apply the etch and then you leave it overnight, you come back to it, you work on it more, you leave it overnight again or something like crazy like that. And then there's a quicker way, which is like you can do it once and you can get right into printing. It's essentially foregoing the second etch for all of you stone lithographers out there. And I started trying to map out like, okay, these are the same steps for both those processes up until this point, and then it deviates, and then this is where this style happens, and these are the steps in here, and here's where this happens. Okay, they link back up at this point, and on roll up, it's the same steps until the end. So I tried to kind of figure out those things, like if I wanted to do like a touche wash, what needs to happen before you get to even doing a touche wash? Trying to get like an understanding of like what is similar and what is different. Not only from a process technical point of view, but also matching up those moments with the materials. Where do you normally use nitric acid, and what are you replacing it with? It's a tannic acid, and it's at this step. Okay, where do you use lithothene, and how do you replace lithothene with a bio etch or a biodiesel or something bio? We're going to learn about that. Matching up the processes and matching up those to like kind of old processes is where I went to next, to kind of make a comparison chart. Here's where the old school stuff says that you need to do steps, here's what the new stuff says, what are the commonalities. We're working off of the Printmaking Revolution book, and that's what like our archetype of contemporary printmaking, we're going to follow that. We are referencing a couple old books. It's this one, and this one, and Otis's notes, these things. Those are what we're going to kind of be looking at as our old examples, and we're going to be trying to break down those processes in some sort of linear fashion, comparing them amongst the other processes, and then comparing all those to the Printmaking Revolution book and trying to match up what are the similarities and what are the differences, and trying to create some sort of process map for going about this whole thing. I compiled a material list. It's here in the show notes if you want it. The material budget is probably my favorite part of a grant because it's a bit like a birthday or Christmas. I get to buy a whole bunch of fun things, have them delivered to me, and I get to open them up in a big box. We're gonna unpack this box of stuff that I ordered from Renaissance Graphics. Hopefully everything in this box is what I need in order to do the bio etching that's outlined in Dwight Pogue's book, and I hope that I'll be able to take a stone from being ground to being drawn on to being etched, and everything I need in this box. Fingers crossed that everything's in that box. So I ordered a bunch of cellulose sponges. I think that I probably could have ordered something very similar from like Canadian Tire, but I thought that since I was just there, these sponges have been selected as they are good for doing litho. I find that the sponges from Canadian Tire, they might have like a soapy residue to them. I'm hoping that these guys don't. They look like they're great. I ordered a bunch, 4 of them to be exact. So this is the primary replacement for nitric acid. This tannic acid is going to be what we etch the stone with. It is a lot safer. This is the Bio Solute. I think that this is Bio Solute. The solute is hidden behind some electrical tape. This is going to be replacing out the wash to the stone. After we use the tannic acid and we buff it down with cheesecloth and gum arabic, the next day when we come back and we would wash out the stone, either using like a lithothene or estisol as I was taught, we're going to use this stuff. This is a roller cleaner. I think this is going to help us like get some clean rollers. I kind of forget exactly where this goes in the order of things, but we have some cleaner. We have this stuff, DNS Posi powder. This powder will let us do photo stone lithography. This is the Posi coat. This is the developer. We use this little guy first, and then we apply the developer in the stone face down in the tray. So those two things, they go together. Ah! straight up corns litho crayons. Can't really remember what I ordered. I ordered a bunch. There is something about like lithography materials that are just so satisfying. I don't know what it is, but they feel amazing. We ordered up a bunch of different qualities. I think they all come in like tubes. Look at this. This like double tubed thing. So I ordered them as like whole chunks, and I think somewhere in this box there's like a pen holder, or I have a pen holder in our studio. These I'm very excited for. I'm a terrible drawer, and so I'm going to struggle to use them. So we have some corns litho crayons. We picked up a pound of undisclosed material. I believe this is my pound of rosin. I have talc, and I think this is rosin. It doesn't seem like there is a replacement for the talc and rosin steps on the stone litho, as they are kind of like after you finish your drawing, you will rosin the stone and then you will talc the stone. And I don't think there's a contemporary replacement. This I'll have to use a respirator with and, well, goggles and gloves, but it should be okay. It's like, as long as you're protected, it's not crazy. It's not like nitric acid that can mix with all the other chemicals in your studio and create toxic gases. It's just a fine powder that never decomposes in your lungs. We bought some Corns graphic ink. We'll see how that goes. Is this biolac? I think this is the biolac. This is what we use after we etch our stone for the first time, and we leave it overnight and we come back to it the next day. We buff it down with this. This needs a respirator. It's suggested to use a vapor respirator or a fume hood. I don't own a fume hood, so we are going to be using a respirator, and I think I'm going to try and do it outside until I can build a fume hood for the studio. Hanko, crayon black. And I think that there is a pound of litho black. When we go to make a black lithography print, we are going to use a combination of either 100% or 70 and 30% or 100% of this, depending on the quality of the drawing. And so this is going to be our roll-up blacks. And combining these two will give us a good ratio that will be either really tight or looser for the drawing, depending on if the drawing is really heavy or if the drawing is really light. So there's going to be a nice ratio of these being used with what I hope is a salvageable leather roller somewhere in the studio. And I have a box full of packing peanuts. That's my box. It has so many cool things. It came up from Renaissance Graphics, which is an art supply store out of the States. They are women owned and operated. They are fantastic. They made shipping up from the States to Canada really easy. Highly, highly, highly recommend ordering art supplies from them if you need things. If you are not yet a subscriber to my channel, please hit that subscribe button. And if you hit the notification bell, you'll be alerted when the next videos in this series come out, because I hope to do about 5 in this series, and it's going to cover kind of all of my OAC research. If you enjoy the content that Chrissy and I create, please consider becoming a member of our Patreon community, the Smart Club. This is a great way for you to help support us making these. We are on this magical voyage. So this was our first video. In the next video, we're going to be grinding down a stone, we're going to be prepping it, we're going to be making a black and white lithograph. Fingers crossed. I hope everything goes well. I have a good feeling about this, right?
What are the secrets of studio practice?